What's going on, guys? ShadowNinja here, and today let's talk about a Titan build you can use in Onslaught. For one, this will be a solar build. We will talk about some, I guess you could say, mix matching of the exotic with Banner of War, because it does work, but also doesn't make sense. But some of that stuff will be said later in the video. For one, with this solar Titan build, it's important to mention this will be focused on Onslaught. However, if you are in a add dense activity in PvE, this build is more than viable. The only time I will probably push away from using this build is if you guys are playing a Master or Grand Master Nightfall, for example, where there is a massive power difference. The way Bungie has designed PvE activities and how challenging is brought about requires Titans, in this case, to use Banner of War for some of that damage resistance and healing and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's just the upfront truth about this build. If you guys are going to ask any questions about, hey, can I take this in this activity, in that activity, there should be some basic information there for you guys to judge for yourselves. But for one, this build will be focusing on the Path of Burning Steps exotic, as well as the Sunshot hand cannon exotic. Now, when it comes to Path of Burning Steps, I will say that this has been a very interesting exotic piece that I've kind of forgotten about over the time, and with how things work in Onslaught, with how crowded things can get, Path of Burning Steps offers a 25% solar weapon surge without the need of any armor mods. So as you can imagine, when it comes to filling out your build with other armor mods, that is a very nice thing, especially if you guys are using an exotic primary like Sunshot. You pretty much be maxing out on this 25% weapon surge. Now, for one, important to mention that this does not stack with other weapon surges, so don't even try that, but it does stack with Radiant, which is nice. You'll get an extra 7%, I believe, on the buff itself. So when it comes to breaking down the tiers of Path of Burning Steps, ×1 gives you a 10% buff, ×2 gives you a 17% buff, ×3 gives you a 22% buff, and ×4 gives you a 25% buff. Again, this is something that does not stack with other weapon surges, specifically in this case a solar weapon surge. So don't try to say that it works or that you should try it, because it doesn't. Trust me, I tried it. Now, with the exotic hand cannon Sunshot, it's easy to say that this is arguably the best PvE hand cannon in the game. One thing to say is that this is a juiced up legendary hand cannon. You can get something of this combination in hand cannons in the game, but there is that benefit of it being an exotic primary. So you have the 40% buff against miners, and then on top of that, hand cannons have seen a buff in Season of the Witch, becoming one of my favorite PvE weapons in the game. So specifically, Sunshot has two exotic traits. The main one, Sunburn. This weapon fires explosive rounds and highlights targets that take damage from Sunshot. Then the other perk, Sunshot, targets defeated with Sunshot explode in energy, basically like an incandescent, because it also applies Scorch to nearby enemies. So yeah, this is good. This is a great exotic and arguably one of the best exotic hand cannons in the game, unless you're rocking like a Malfeasance, which you could do some other interesting stuff when it comes to DPS and all that things. But yeah, but overall, that should be enough on the information to lead you into the build. Let's jump into the game and give you guys all the good stuff in regards to what you need to make this build whole. So as usual, let's enjoy the drip. Honestly, not gonna lie, this may be arguably my favorite red design on my Titan. I don't know, it looks awesome. I'm willing to throw it out there. If you guys can comment and agree with me, maybe you guys disagree, but yeah, I think the drip is absolutely fire. But yeah, let's jump in and talk about some of the stuff in regards to this build. Now, for one, let me mention something with the loadout. If you guys want to opt for a legendary hand cannon and not use Sunshot, maybe you want to use Galahorn and get, you know, some benefits still with the solar weapon surge, you can use like a Luna's Howl. Like, this is fine. Also, yeah, you could use this one. I haven't gotten a good one, but this is a, you know, solar hand cannon. Zal's Bane from the Kingsfall raid is also a great option. Any solar weapon, honestly, is perfectly fine. Probably not use Tommy's Matchbook because of the burn and survivability aspect of it, but yeah, altogether, you can use a legendary solar weapon of your choice and opt for a solar exotic power weapon like Galahorn. That's if you want. Nothing to be specific, but just offer some flexibility for you guys. Now, when it comes to the loadout, Healing Grenade because survivability, and again, it'll grant you restoration in some degree. Our aspects will be Soul Invictus because, you know, making some sunspots. We still have the Bonk Hammer. We're not benefiting from extra melee damage due to, for example, you will get from Synthoceps or Worm God Caress, but this hammer is still viable in one way or another, and we have Roaring Flames, so we can increase the damage of it a bit. This stacks up to 3. Is a good way of making your hammer pretty damn good. Those are the 2 aspects, Soul Invictus and Roaring Flames. For our fragments, using Ember of Empyrean, solo weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you. Is a great way of maintaining being radiant in Onslaught, as well as some sense of restoration if you guys are able to maintain it. We have Ember of Eruption. Your solar ignitions have increased area effect. Again, we're using Sunshot. We want our ignitions to be even more better, or at least more grander in this case. Ember of Eruption is a good option there. Ember of Torches, hitting that power melee makes you go radiant. I will admit this can be a bit overkill, so you can swap to something else if you guys want to switch off of this. Again, going radiant as often as you can is great, but with the seasonal artifact, going radiant isn't really a challenge when you are using a solar weapon. And then next to that, lastly, we're using Ember of Searing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. We are scorching so many targets, so as you can imagine, this is a fun little fragment to benefit from scorching all those targets. Now, when it comes to our, mods on our armor pieces, for our helmets, we are using Harmonic Siphon because we're using solar in this case, so we're using a solar weapon. This just benefits a little bit better on your energy usage side of things, and then on top of that, we're using hands-on for bonus super energy on melee kills. When it comes to our arm, we have Harmonic Loader, and then we also have heavy-handed and fastball. Fastball is not really needed because, but again, throwing the grenade farther for my teammates maybe. If you guys have more flexibility in your stats to maybe utilize this better, go right ahead, but we're just using fastball. Don't mind that. When it comes to our chest, we triple stack Harmonic Reserves because we're using a Rocket Launcher Apex Predator here. When it comes to our leg armor, we are using a Strand Weapon Surge because of our Tuscalibur Waveframe Grenade Launcher, and then we have 2 innovations to reduce our grenade cooldown. The goal here is to make sure we have a healing grenade. As I mentioned before, survivability with solar or just any class compared to Strand, Banner of War as a Titan is not on the good side when compared to what Banner of War can do. So having a healing grenade at your disposal is a great way to just maintain constant refreshes of being alive, which is nice, especially when things get a little bit more hectic. And then when it comes to our mark, just using 2 time dilations and then your reserves thing there. Nothing too crazy there. Again, the mods, nothing too overly, I guess you could say, unexpected. But nonetheless, important information for you guys. Seasonal artifact, last but not least, when it comes to the main ones you will need, because you will need, I do think, Rays of Precision, while Radiant Solar Precision blows cause combatants to ignite. That's nice. We have Torch, while Radiant deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by Strand and Stasis debuffs. We're using Tuscalibur Strand Grenade Launcher from Banner. Try to get that. This is the last, I guess you could say, day. I don't know when you guys are going to be watching this. Hope you guys already picked up a Strand Waveframe Grenade Launcher like that. So that's going to be great there. Flint Striker, Rapid Solar Weapon Precision Hits, or Rapid Solar Weapon Final Blows grant Radiant. Again, you want to constantly be Radiant, which is very nice here. And then Kindling Trigger is the big one. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. Again, Seasonal Artifact is all about overkill with Scorch, and utilizing that with Radiant stuff makes for a very fun, juiced out solar weapon, I guess you could say, meta in this case. Again, everything here is to enhance your solar weapon, not so much your solar build in certain cases, but again, fun, great artifact for those solar weapons, and certainly making them one of the best in the game. But that's pretty much all I gotta say on the build. Let's jump out and give you guys my closing thoughts. So before we wrap it up, let's bounce back into Path of Burning Steps with Banner of War. If you guys want more survivability with more damage resistance like Banner of War, you can use Path of Burning Steps as long as you are using a solar primary weapon. You'll get a lot of benefits out of it. The only thing I really push back on using Path of Burning Steps with Banner of War is that you're not really getting a melee enhancement like you do with Synthoceps or Worm God. The main benefits with those is that you're receiving, in certain cases, a 165% buff to your melee damage, as well as a 50% buff to your super damage. And Worm God Caress, I think the third tier is that 165 damage, and I think it might cap at 275%, maybe 300, not exactly sure on that. It's been a little bit since I looked at those numbers. You also get a 50% increase to your weapon damage depending on the stacks. So using Path of Burning Steps with a build like Banner of War and Strand could be an option, but again, you're kind of handicapping yourself with the full capabilities of Banner of War, where I really just wouldn't recommend. But besides that, guys, leave your thoughts down below on this build. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What changes would you make? If you guys also enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. Helps out the video a ton. Very important thing I did not mention is that the dim link is in the pinned comment or description if you guys want to pull this build. Easy. Best way of doing it instead of just following along and pressing things along. Really recommend using dim, and this is not even like a promo saying. If you play Destiny, you probably know about dim. If you don't know about dim and you play Destiny, get on it. It is one of the best tools out there to play Destiny. But I think I've done enough talking on that. If you guys want more content from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell if you guys haven't already to be notified for when I do drop content. But till then, hope you guys have a good one. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.